I like it because it's like hopeful. It's like,
Yeah.
you're not like doomed ukuthi cha wena unje ngeke ukwazi ukuphinde ufunde lokho, ngeke ukwazi ukwenza lokho. It challenges sort of that ukuthi you can actually, it's like a literal, you can do what you want to do.
So it's proof that you
proof
can change.
that you can change. You can actually change and like because often it comes with the lifestyle. Often people build their lives around the drinking. So the kinds of friends you keep is that we drink together. This is what we do. This is how we have fun, and you love those people, right? You love them. These are your friends. But if you're trying to change that, it might mean you stop meeting them or being with them in the same way as you've been with them, and that's a huge change and shift. And so it's also that certain relations may be lost, or connections. I mean, maybe the friendships may stay, but the ways in which you connect might need to shift and change. So there's a loss there. Even at home, we connect better when we're drinking together, and now that must shift and change. So there's a loss, there's a loneliness, there's like and that's hard. Second time lucky.
Yeah, no. It feels like fifth time.
Fifth, fourth, third, 10th time.
Okay. Welcome to Isiyalo Overflow. If you're new here, this is where we record key conversations that would help anyone struggling in these various topics that we pick to kind of get an idea of where they are, be able to do an audit, a self-audit to see if you need help, chances are we all need help at a certain time in our lives. And that is why this is important to us, so that we get these topics out there relative to us, particularly in our culture as well. So welcome, and please stay with us. Today we have a clinical psychologist in the house, Sister Phethile Zitha, and she will be sharing her time with us and her knowledge, and I just have a beautiful conversation, and we are discussing generational patterns. Maybe you thought I was going to say curses. No. Generational patterns. Welcome, Sis Peti.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's start where we always start. Tell us, who is Sis Phethile Zitha?
She is very camera shy, by the way. But I'll be strong. No, who's
I thought you were over that.
Never. I love being behind the scenes, not in front of the camera. So I envy you there.
Oh, yeah.
Who am I? Where do I start? I don't know. That's always a weird question.
It is. I also find it weird.
For sure. I am.
Maybe let's try.
Yeah.
Let's try it in this way. Where did you grow up? Yeah.
So grew up at Dobsonville, Soweto. Come from a big family. I am surrounded by many people. The nation. Eight other people before me, so see 9. Wow. It's a village.
That's huge.
It's cool. Just to know you have a gang with you. That's cool. Yeah. So yes.
Why psychology?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I'm fascinated with human beings and behavior, relationships, how we are with each other. But I think where it started, Gashle, was when I was in high school. Very cliched. I used to think, I want to make a difference in a child's life, even like one child a day, So then there was like, there's social work. It's not so interesting. And then for me, I wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
I think it's an important career. And
Very.
really makes a huge difference in children's lives. But it didn't pull me. And then at some point I thought I want to be a nurse, but I was too scared of that space.
Yeah.
And I don't know actually how I stumbled upon psychology, but it was in keeping in line with sort of creating a spaces for children to be.
Okay.
I think I felt that often children are neglected or are the like last thought in people's minds, in terms of like their thoughts and feelings and just them as human beings. So I think, yeah, then psychology was fascinating in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for studying it, because
Yeah.
now we are able
We
to
are here.
draw. We are drawing from that
I hope
knowledge.
so. I hope so. So try and share what I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to we want to discuss generational patterns.
Patterns, yeah.
And you know, it's always, for me, it's always been one of those fascinating topics,
Yeah.
almost central to humanity. Like,
Ah, cool.
yeah, I think if anybody you would ask, we would see, so like, what's your lifetime goal, what do you want to do, it will always try and touch along the lines of generational patterns, you know, improving your own kind, or you know, making a name for a surname and so forth. But today we find more and more a need to discuss patterns, because I think people find themselves in a place where they don't want certain things in their lives, and they don't want certain maybe scenarios, or you know, to play out, maybe things they even saw on
Yeah,
with their
yeah,
parents, their
yeah.
grandparents, and they're like, no, I'm not going down that
I
route.
don't want to be that.
but
Yeah.
but then how do you, you know, and so I think we have to then try and maybe firstly demystify it. What are generational patterns for someone who has never heard the term?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really, it's in the word, I guess, because generational is like the idea of something happening over, not something, but generational is like about generations over time.
From
So
one
the
gener-
idea of there was people before you, or there were people before you, there were people before the people before you, and there's like a sort of a passage of sorts. And patterns is like, you could think of it like a repetition. That's what you were saying, like a
Yes.
sequence or a series of things happening. So generational patterns, I guess, are like, what are some of these behaviors, ideas, beliefs, thought patterns, ways of being that have been passed down or have been reoccurring from one generation to the next, and often unconsciously, like we're not aware that we are doing this, or that we're repeating something of the past. So it's like it seems naturally occurring that this is what we do.
Yeah.
But there's like you could sort of see a distinct form or way of behaving that's particular to that particular family or this group of people. Sometimes even like, I think countries, you know, like clans or tribes. These
Yeah.
people do this,
Yeah.
or this in this place. This is what happens. So yeah, I think it's those kind of repetitive behaviors, thoughts, ways of being that just get passed down without. You said some when you were talking, I thought, yeah, that people want to disrupt those almost when they are not helpful. People want to disrupt those, so things that get passed down without any disruption, without any changes, but just get taken up and continued.
I think when we were talking, I mean, there's a sense of how we sort of identify with certain things.
Yeah.
Saying that in this place, this is what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Kwa Mthombeni, this is what we do. So there's a sense of, we find a sense of identity somehow in
Yeah,
these
linked
patterns
with
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
But then I think then the question that arises is that can I really change who I am, or is it because if what we do is so attached to who we are or who I am, then it almost sounds self-defeating to want to change something.
And so maybe the question is who you are or what you do, because that's where you started. What I do is who I am. Is what you're doing helpful? And I think that's an important place to begin, like to explore. And I mean, I think when you were talking or introducing what these podcasts are for, what Isiyalo is about, it's the word that came up to me was like building, I guess, or cultivating this idea, self-awareness, like just.
Yes.
And I think that's an important place to begin. Is constantly being curious about yourself. Are the things that I'm doing helpful? Does it help me to do this? And then in turn, is who I am, is it helpful for me, right?
Yeah.
Who could I be? Who could I be? Who could show up if I changed what I do?
Yeah.
What would that open up for me? What could I access in myself? So I guess, and what those ideas are saying is we can change who we are.
Yeah.
That identity is not fixed, right?
Yeah.
We can recreate or reimagine ourselves.
Let me take a detour, just a slight detour, because I think we're touching on something that I hear a lot when someone says, "But this is who I am. You cannot change me."
Yeah.
And just by the way, maybe it doesn't need to be a detail, because the next thing I was going to ask is how do we differentiate good patterns from bad patterns? Because we don't really want to throw away everything, just simply because things are not working out. But the thought of this is who I am, you cannot change me, and not therefore being stagnant or not wanting to change, because this is, how do we negotiate that area, and maybe to even stretch it out. Maybe I'm speaking from a perspective of I have a relationship, or I have a child, or I have a mother who constantly throws this at me when I pose certain patterns that I deem not good for the environment or anything like that.
So this is the response you get.
How do we navigate that? And I'm saying on both sides. It's either it's a response I get, or I find myself unconsciously, uttering those words out.
I heard two questions, I think, Goda, from Misha, was like differentiating, or like just breaking down this idea of patterns in terms of what are patterns bad necessarily? Do we have to always change them? And I think no. I think we gain a lot of mixed bags from those who've come before us, and some of it is helpful, like how to navigate the world, how to just the different things that the ways in which we manage to be human and live life. It's mostly from what we've inherited or what has been passed on. That helps the survival of the human species. So not everything is bad, but some patterns we know are not helpful. And maybe it's moving away from the idea of good and bad, because at some point these patterns or this behavior, this thinking system, whatever the thing is that has been passed on, worked for your ancestors or your mom's parents. It worked then because of the time that they were in, but perhaps it doesn't work now. So it's not so much even about it's good or bad, but is it helpful or unhelpful? Is it is it adding to your progress and you moving, or is it holding you back? Is it facilitating connection in the family, or is it straining relationships? So I think those are that could be the kinds of question one asks themselves to see, is it something that we can change or do we keep? Right. And it's, and we could think about it like it could be a value system, it could be gender roles. So the idea of what women and men should do, if you take that as an example, mhlambe kudala le, because of the time, it worked. There wasn't a lot of like opportunities for the girl child or for women. The idea was that you are going to, uzokhulisa umuzi kwenye indawo, you're gonna. So the investment is not so much on the girl child, but also just economically, mhlambe there weren't as many opportunities, right, for women or the girl child. And so there could be a belief system that gets sort of created there, that, oh, girls are not so smart, or girls can't do this, girls can't do that. And you take that and you don't question it, and then that gets sort of passed on. And even though, because that's the other interesting thing about patterns, it may not be spoken, but it's a belief that's in the system that nobody actually says, okay, we believe girls can't, but it's sort of, there's a quote that I saw that said something like silence, or silence is a powerful transmitter. So that even the things that are unsaid,
yeah.
are teaching, are saying something, are being taken up. So, I mean, in a household or in a dynamic like that, where there is if in a household there is a sense of girls are not that smart, or they are not that strong, or they actually are not gonna amount to anything, all the focus is onto the boy child. Even if that is unsaid, that is picked up. There's a knowing that, and it will come through subtly, perhaps, that there isn't acknowledging when the girl does this, or that kind of behavior of wanting to be, oh, I want to do math, or I want to do this, is discouraged, or subtly kanjalo. So it's like sometimes unseen. It's not like you can sort of pinpoint it. Oftentimes it's subtle, unseen, and yeah, it's just it even when it's unspoken, it's just there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess back to the question, I would say, like, is it in terms of whether it's helpful or not, I think it's like what I was saying, Guti, it's just exploring in what ways is it helping us, whether that's us in a family, us as a couple, me as a person, in what ways are these beliefs helping me or not? But what that means, I guess, is that also you then have to be curious about it, ask questions of yourself, like, what are the thoughts that are holding me back? Or what are the beliefs that are holding me back? What are the automatic behaviors that I just do? So that's back to your second part, Uguti. You just find yourself saying mina nginje. That could be one way of like, oh, okay, let me be curious about this nje. What is it? What is this behavior that I automatically enact, or I behave in this way automatically without thought? And I think that's the interesting bit. It's the stuff that we don't think about, that we just automatically do. That we could start there, to be curious about that. Is it helping me? Is it, because that's the stuff that's entrenched, that's ingrained, that really we take for granted, which that's who we are.
And I think the reason I asked about the second part is maybe I was trying to draw a contrast between those who interrogate and those who do not. Because at the end of the day, if we are to, if you're saying to, if you utter the words of, I want to break this generational pattern, automatically what you're saying is that I want to interrogate certain patterns. And that means that is a very uncomfortable space to be in, because then now your whole being is being shaken.
Interrogated,
then I have to check, well, where do I even get this, And you spoke about, I think when you spoke about certain family structures and how they are geared, I couldn't help but think of, because I just spoke to a certain friend, I couldn't help but think of these families that we have also now today, and which I'm not saying is wrong, that are a matriarchal family, a family that is driven by all mama, women, and where and sometimes it goes to such an extreme where even family decisions perhaps are discussed among the matriarch. And so even though it's not communicated that who is who, but you then find the fathers either consumed with recreational
outside of the home.
They're just consumed with recreational tasks, even if it's under the tree somewhere, just minding their own, and but the home is really run by the matriarch. And so if you come from literally, if you come from that, and let's say you are a guy, and you find a woman that says, "But I wanna be led," and that on its own is I think those are the difficulties we find ourselves in, to say, but she wants to be led by who?
What does that even mean?
Because I thought you are the one. I thought I'm just supposed to go to work and bring everything to you, and you're supposed to see what to do with everything.
You must lead.
You this is how I grew up.
I mean, and I think Iole, the part that I think is fascinating is we all come from our different sort of backgrounds and different patterns. And we meet, and if we take the example of like as a couple, and you meet this person who comes with his whole generational history, that's not even just about him. He's also carrying things he doesn't even know, maybe he's carrying, or ways of thinking, ways of understanding, ways of seeing the world that he's never interrogated. And so he's just like, what do you mean? This is how it is. And, the other part, he may also be coming now from a completely different world, carrying different things. And so these two people come and they collide. And literally, often as couples, we collide, it feels like. And so, I mean, I think what you were saying there, and you can say if I'm missing your question or your point, but I think what you're raising there, Uguti, so these patterns may not necessarily be negative. That's what I'm hearing. They may not necessarily be a bad thing, like gooby, but or that they're a mixed bag of helpful and unhelpful. That even though that was not the intention, the fact that it was a household where one, because it could be both ways. It could be a matriarchal, it could have been a very strong patriarchal sort of view, what I say goes, and that shuts down something in the girl child, or that elevates something in the boy child, that actually I must make the decisions all the time. And vice versa. If it's matriarch, it's the boy child defers maybe to women in his life to make the decision. So it could be either. And that's the point of it, I guess, is to open it up and be curious. Which in what ways has my upbringing impacted how I think, how I show up in the world, who I am? Because it's not just Ninji, but there's been ways in which you have been formed by your experiences, your early experiences in particular. So I think that's a nice example, I would say. We're not necessarily, because sometimes people might say, I had a healthy, good upbringing, so I don't imagine there are any terrible patterns or generational curses. That's the
and sometimes your good experience comes from the fact that you've never questioned anything, really.
Yes, that's it. Ignorance is bliss, right? Like it's blissful because you've not been curious or explored, dared to explore. Yeah.
Can I inherit addictions?
Yes, but we can unpack that a bit.
I think that's important because sometimes you throw around those terms. But what comes to your mind when we think about inheriting addictions?
I mean, I think there's a lot of work done around epigenetics, which I'm not an expert in, so I'm not gonna. I have very limited sort of understanding of it, but I think my basic understanding of it is that certain things happen, that certain external factors like a trauma maybe that you experienced, an external something that you experienced, or stress, heightened, prolonged exposure to stress, that can change you biologically, and that those biological changes then can be transferred or inherited. And so there's a lot of work, I guess, even around addictions, maybe that perhaps looks a bit into that, but also just on another level that I wanted to call basic. But we know that just by social learning or modeling, that behavior or patterns of behavior, ways of responding to things are learned that way. Children model what, do as we do.
Okay.
So I think when you think about addictions, if you grow up in a household where, you know, alcohol or substances are abused or used in ways that are not helpful and are used as like a coping mechanism, as a stress coping mechanism, or when we are sad, we drink. When we, you know, whatever, when we are happy or excited, alcohol is the thing we use to just regulate or to, you know, to sort of regulate ourselves. That kind of behavior gets taken up by a child. This is what we do when we're stressed. We drink. When we not feeling okay, I eat. It could even be food, right, or whatever else. So I think that definitely can be inherited by just being in a place, observing and seeing it. But on top of also the other component of the genetics and what happens there, which is a whole another world. So definitely it can be inherited.
So also I heard when you're speaking about coping mechanisms. So as we use coping mechanisms, it means that what we are coping, what the stress, the source of the stress that we have to cope with remains there because we have mechanisms in place to sort of fortify. So meaning that alcohol literally becomes a vehicle, or not a vehicle, but it becomes a foundation in which whatever negative patterns that we have in the home, sort of it covers them and ensures that they stay.
Yeah, for sure. So we're not even dealing with the source of the stress. So it doesn't remove it. It doesn't help us manage it in ways that are helpful and help us transcend it. But it keeps it there. That's what you're saying. And I guess when you were talking, what I thought is, then it's like whatever problem, actually what you picking up that I can cope using alcohol, but what you're not getting is also ways of dealing with life stresses, because life is about struggle and stress as much as it is about enjoyment and like growth and all those other good things. So throughout a child's life, they will meet a number of stresses and hurdles and obstacles. And so what they would have missed out on is an opportunity of how do you manage when you do meet difficulties. But what they do know, with what they can pull from, you know, in their, if we think of it as like petty school back and you're walking into life, what they have is, I can use alcohol to deal with this. Or I can use whatever. Because alcohol, I guess what it also represents is like it's a distraction. It's a into kashana, right? It's to just reduce the pressure for that moment. But it, like exactly what you're saying, doesn't take it away. So it could be alcohol, it can be sex, it can be shopping, it can be food, anything that just gives me a high for a moment and just reduces or alleviates the stress for the moment.
And so but by sort of avoiding that pressure for that second, you defer it, but you still stay in the same position. So thereby you are definitely playing repeating the same patterns. So it, I mean, we spoke earlier on around neuroplasticity. And I think this is exactly the area in which we are in. Maybe let's touch on that. I mean, this, if I'm in a position where I've got coping mechanisms and I'm, you know, so what does it look like? Firstly, what is neuroplasticity, and what does it look like to, you know, apply that knowledge into that?
I mean, I think neuroplasticity is an interesting idea, or something that we've come to know, is the idea that the brain is not static. Like, it's not like the brain as an organ. It's constantly changing. It's the brain's ability to change. It's constantly growing and doing all sorts of things. So, I mean, I think it's a hopeful idea. I like it because it's like hopeful. It's like, you know, you're not like doomed. ngeke ukwazi ukuphinde ufunde lokho, ngeke ukwazi ukwenza lokho. It challenges sort of that ukuthi you can actually, it's like a literal, you can do what you want to do.
So it's proof that you can change.
That you can change. You can actually change, and like, yeah. So it's really, it's that. And I think the one example I saw used online was like, if you think of your brain, neuroplasticity is like, if you think of your brain as like a living map, like a map, and it every sort of, if you take an action, you are charting a new path, or you are connecting. The brain is made up of neurons and stuff like that, and so you're connecting certain neurons by doing a particular action. Certain parts of your brain is activated and can connect and wire, right? They light up and can connect and wire, so if you do that kind of action, if you think of it as a map, like you're creating a new path. You didn't have that skill, but now you're doing it, and so there's a new path that's created. And you keep doing it over and over again, that path becomes clearer and clearer. It's easier to travel. It's easier to see. Even for someone, oh, there's a path here. You can follow that path. So it's essentially that if with repetition and consistency at doing something, we can change, and we can, they like to say in neuroplasticity, the neurons that fire together wire together. That is like, that's the way of creating that path. So now then it becomes easy to do that thing. It's not an effort anymore. Whereas mauqala, it's hard to, and we know that when you're trying a new skill or trying to do something, a new habit, it is hard day one. You're like, everything in you says you can't do this, and you don't want to do it. And there's all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. But if you push through that and you push through again in 14 days, you're like, oh, actually I can do this, so it becomes easier. So I think I like that idea of like, it's like a living map, which you can create paths for yourself that were not there. But now they are there, and there's multiple paths. It's not one way. But when I'm stressed, I drink alcohol. Actually, I can go for a walk. And so next time I go for a walk again, that's something else. Oh, no, actually, I can also just maybe take a bath. That relaxes me. Or I can breathe a little bit. Or I can talk to someone. Actually, I don't trust people I've never, but let me try. And I try, and it's hard and it's awkward, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have talked to them. But actually, that really did offer me some help. So there's a bit of resistance, but you try again and you try again. So you're creating like a multiplicity of ways of coping with something instead of just alcohol, right? Or whatever else that is unhelpful. But it's about creating those pathways for yourself in your brain. And there comes change. Now you're not the person who just goes to this thing, but you do other things too.
I kind of like that, because in humanity we always have this thing, Guti, say for instance, so and so was the first to do a heart transplant. I know we have I think that was local, right? It's a local doctor.
I think
who successfully done.
Who did the first heart transplant? I remember.
I think Cheka is sleeping.
Chris Barnard. Is it Chris Barnard? No. Okay, I don't want to say that.
I know it's local. I know. It was done in SA, and I'm like, that one is in the bag. But we have always. We always mark those first to do that on a national scale. But I think then when we talk of generational curses, for me, it was, can we mark that on a family scale? To say, in the family,
there's the first,
I'm the first one to actually conquer the issue that we constantly have to put a coping mechanism against. And then you're saying to me that, or we have recognized that there is difficulty there. And I think that then that's the area we have to say that according to you and from your experience, I mean, what are the certain difficulties that we face when we are now ready to sort of...
It's never been done, especially when you think about it as like a generational sort of history or pattern. one, you don't have an example of it happening, so
Yeah.
you don't even have it as an idea that's possible in your head.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the beauty of like exposure and hearing from other people. Oh wow, there's other ways of living life and being a man. Like if we take your example of, if you come from a strongly matriarchal home and perhaps the masculine voice is silenced somehow, if you talk to other men who are like, oh, there's room for the feminine and the masculine voice to coexist and collaborate and create something different, you're like, oh wow, that's possible. But if that's something you don't know, you've never seen, you imagine that doesn't exist, right? And so, that on its own makes it hard. But it's just in your world, it's never been done. That's why I can say. So then, the power of exposure is really helpful in that way, because you get to see other ways of doing. So I think that's one obstacle. But it's also a path unknown. So where do you begin? How do I start having a different kind of relationship with alcohol that isn't just about when I'm stressed? Can I drink and not get drunk?
Yeah.
Is drinking the point of drinking to get drunk? Or can I just drink to enjoy the drink without taking it to that level where I'm drunk?
Yeah.
Can drinking just be a social thing? Or can I just not drink? Is it possible that I could be fine without having alcohol, So it's that it's new. I think that on its own makes it like hard. It's new. And then it's because the path that is been entrenched and that is clear, that is known, that is easily available is the one that you have. It's easier to go back there. It's easier to, because that's been over and over and over, repeated and done. That's the pattern. So it's also, it's hard because that just seems the thing to do, and automatically you go that way. So it requires like one to be very vigilant of themselves. It's the intention to change, and maybe you have that intention, but then it's like the awareness of actually what is it that I'm trying to change. And that requires us, I guess, to introspect, to do a deep dive and be curious about not just ourselves, but also something of what's happening in our homes. And even that is also uncomfortable, to have to confront certain things, to ask questions about why Gunje. That could uncover pain, right? Because Gunje, because there's probably pain that we're trying to avoid and not deal with, that has just been passed on over and over again. So I think that is also what makes it hard, is we are confronted with the pain that has been sitting in the family for generations and generations. That even the people that are close to us or a parent might not be able to fully make sense of it. They know their experience of this pain and what they've passed on to you, but not really what actually it's about and where it comes from, even though they've felt it and experienced it. But also being the first one means, you have to be courageous, I guess, and brave, because you upset the system. You might upset people around. Why wenza njalo? Why ufuna ukushintsha? I mean, we are fine the way we are, So you run the risk. Also, what makes it hard is it can be a lonely, alienating experience, journey, because nobody else is doing what you're doing. You're breaking out of the mold, of the pattern.
And community.
And community, you may need to for certain things. Like alcohol is a nice one, because often it comes with the lifestyle. Often people build their lives around the drinking. So the kinds of friends you keep is that we drink together. This is what we do. This is how we have fun, and you love those people, right? You love them. These are your friends. But if you're trying to change that, it might mean you stop meeting them or being with them in the same way as you've been with them, and that's a huge change and shift.
It's a big shift.
And so it's also that certain relations may be lost, or connections. I mean, maybe the friendships might stay, but the ways in which you connect might need to shift and change. So there's a loss there. Even at home, mhlampe we connect better when we're drinking together. And now that must shift and change. So there's a loss, there's a loneliness, there's like and that's hard.
That's very
That's
hard. I mean,
hard.
I'm drawing from my own experience. But I think what also helped me was
Yeah.
weighing the gain
Yeah, for sure.
versus what I'm
What are you
losing.
losing?
Like can
I
I
love that. Yeah.
I thought to myself, so if I stand to gain meaningful relationships with
Yeah.
my children, can I what do I value more? Or do I
Yeah,
value more to
yeah.
be a better father and a better person in the community than, the relationships that I am going to lose, because that seemed very much so, and I think that's what helps sometimes to kind of take an
To
audit.
weigh. And sometimes that I think we think the loss, we haven't even explored what the gain is, right? That,
Yeah,
like, if you just figure that out, it's like, oh, of course, this is what I need to do, because this is what is, this is what I want. This is
yeah,
life giving. This feels good for me. It's not even for the other, but it's giving life to me. So,
clearly.
yeah, sometimes it just feels like you're losing more than you actually are. You're not losing. You actually are gaining
Yeah.
by challenging those patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna keep this one short.
Sure.
And we'll do a follow-up one that's gonna be quite longer than this one because of time.
Yeah.
Um, but are they I think definitely maybe sometimes it's trusting the laws of the earth to say that
Yeah.
whenever you improve something, it's gotta be better. The future
Yeah.
of it has to
Yeah.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
even though I
That's
don't
life.
know what
Yeah.
it looks like. But I mean, I've seen if you improve something, then it has to be better.
Yeah.
And if I want something that's better than what my parents had, then surely I have to improve
Yeah.
a certain bit.
There's work that must be done. That there's yeah, no, yeah. That's almost the law of life. It's
Yeah,
progress. It gets better and better if we change things, if we do something, if that's our intention. Um, but I guess it's back to that question of how, like, how do you change it? And it's, if we link it back to this idea, neuroplasticity, that the brain, it begins there, I guess, that the brain can change.
yeah,
And so I guess it's like, if in our minds there's the intention to change, that's the first step.
yeah,
The other thing because I don't think we truly believe, I don't think we truly buy into the idea that, we it starts here with our minds or our thinking, that if we can sort of conquer that,
yeah,
then we are free, honestly,
yeah,
um, and because when you, I mean, there's, I forgot who's this Baba who says, the eyes don't see. It's not your eyes that see. Your eyes confirm what your mind has already decided. And you see that maufuna something like, when you ask someone, or ask my daughter, interested, ayikho,
yeah,
lapha emehlweni akhe, in front of, but she's decided in her mind that it's not there, and then it's not there. But it's also that once you start, or even when you have set the intention and you're like, yo, yes, I really wanna lose weight, you start seeing all the things around you that
yeah,
help with losing, with that goal, right? Decide to, or when you're thinking, yeah, you want to start a family and you want to have children, suddenly you see all the pregnant people around you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or that actually, it's when our minds will go where we've decided to go.
yeah,
And I think that's a powerful thing, because then it then just brings up that other scripture: seek and you will find.
and
Like,
you'll
if your
find.
intention is
Yeah,
set to this thing, you'll find it. Ask and it shall be given. That's I think is the beginning step. Is, if in your mind there's a clarity and you are convinced that it is worth changing, I want to disrupt this pattern, I don't want this. That's the beginning steps, I think, of the change. And then I guess it's about what we talked about. It's about being sort of curious about what kind of patterns do you want to change, how have they been working, are they working, are they not working, and then to come up with alternatives, right? So if thoughts are that powerful, and your thought is, I always make a mess, or I always make a mess of things, or I never get things right the first time I do them. To change that kind, because then it means that will be your pattern, right? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You never get things right the first time. To change that would be to then you have to have a counter thought to that. So what would be a thought that disrupts that kind of pattern or that belief? Could be, like, I'm working towards being more confident in what I do, right?
Yes,
In trusting
yes.
myself in my actions. And of course, like we were saying even earlier, when you're starting something new, you may feel like, oh, this is like a lie. I don't believe this, and that's okay, because it hasn't been true yet. Because as in the thought you've had is, I make a mess. I make a mess. That's the thought that's known for you. But it's sort of, and it's the thought, but also the feeling that helps to entrench some of these pathways we're talking about in the brain. So it must be coupled with the feeling, because we know that, like Mauna, when you have a strong thought that's coupled with the feeling, that's like an intense sort of experience that one has. So if you like, okay, I'm working towards being confident in the things that I do, you could come up with, what are some of the small steps that I could do that could speak to this. So it's thought, it's feeling, it's action. What can I do? So maybe next time, if I'm working towards being confident in what I do, and I'm having to speak like right now and be in front of a camera and I don't like it, I do it. So then I do it and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm gonna look, or let's say in a meeting where you are shy, you don't talk at work, then you could be like, okay, next time I'm gonna say something and I'm gonna look at someone, look them in the eye, make eye contact, and say my point, right? And it can start small. I'm just gonna make one comment in the meeting, and then I'm gonna leave it. And then you do that, and you're like, wow, okay. So you're building towards that, right? So it's taking small actions, small steps that build towards this behavior you want. So maybe with the drinking, if we stick to that example, it's next time when I'm feeling sad, instead of taking a drink, I'm gonna whatever you can do. So what's the easiest next thing you can do that isn't that is helpful? Maybe instead I'm gonna call someone, or talk to someone, and just like think with someone about this, or I'm gonna listen to music, or I'm gonna read, or I'm gonna read something that helps me. I'm going to just the alternative. So that's the first small sort of action that you can take that's doable. And I think the brain, like we've said, it's repetition over and over again, then you entrench that behavior. That's what helps to make it last, or help to stick. And in that way, you're creating an alternative. Instead of this, I'm going to do this. And you sort of and strengthening that kind of alternative path or way of dealing with something.
That's great. Thank you so much, man, for giving us the opportunity to have this. If you allow, I think we have to dive deeper into how these things really play out in our families. I mean, I think this was more of an introduction now, a conversation. But is there any parting words? Just 5 minutes, 2 minutes?
Sure. You can have the life you want to have. It's such a bold statement, but I think, and I say such a bold statement given the conditions and the social sort of challenges that we have, that seem to counter that seem to pull us away from the lives we want to have. But I guess in terms of stuff like this, like thinking about what is my response to these conditions. The conditions can be terrible. They may be unemployment and violence and all the stuff that we have. But if there's like space and room to think, what is me and what is my response to this, right? The space to think about how to respond. I guess that's place that gives us hope, that we can reimagine and resist these conditions that want to pull us down, and have the kinds of lives we want to have. But I guess, I mean, that's for me, the idea of generational patterns is about how do I take what helps and use it to like be a force in the world, and how do I let go the things that hold me back? And that's that statement of you can leave the shackles that bind you, and use whatever that helps you as wings to take it to the next level. And it's what you were saying about if it's about improving something, how do we move the family to the next sort of level?
Yeah.
Because when you do that, the ones that are coming after you are looking at you like, oh, he did chart that path. So, you know, the path to changing things and healing and coming up with alternatives is available.
Yeah.
You know, and they chart new paths, and the children's children chart new paths. So it spreads, right? It heals not only backwards, but forwards too, like what is to come, the generations that are to come. Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Sis Petty.
Cool,
we will definitely add on this one if you allow.
Yeah.
I think what I'm just gonna say is, before I say this, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please help us grow. Like and share this video. It really, really, really helps us. But as a parting word, I think on the issue of improving, I think we have to understand that nothing comes overnight.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
If you are relentless in your consistency, first it won't show, because you just have 5 bricks laid that it's a house. But you have to keep on laying brick after brick after brick until someone can see, there's a wall there being built.
There,
and there's a structure coming up, and maybe you or your children will lay the roof there, but you can't not do anything about it. Something has to be done. Check out our details on the description. We have people who can help you go through your journey. But thank you so much, Sis Petty. Let's do the next one. I think maybe I know we should cover self-sabotage on the next one. And stuff like that. So keep it locked, keep it tuned. God bless you. Have a last one.
C'est bon.